Well, welcome to this webinar on how different generations engage with video games today. Thank you very much for joining today's session. Please note this session will be recorded. Some practicalities before we start. The webinar will be approximately 25 minutes in total, followed by a 5-minute Q&A session hosted by my colleague Jutta. Please feel free to post your questions throughout the presentation in the chat, and we'll try our best to get back to as many of those as we can today. After the session next week, we will share the recording as well as the deck with all registrants. We will also include an FAQ document, which will have the most frequently asked questions. So today, if your question isn't dealt with, or it's not in that document, please feel free to reach out to us via the email that Jutta will post in the chat. So to begin, just a little bit about myself. My name is Warda Meehan. I've been working at Newzoo for over 6 years. And besides leading the Global Gamer Study, the study from which the data we'll explore today covers, I've also worked on a variety of projects for publishers and developers, along with gaming-related projects for brands. So for those of you who might be less familiar with Newzoo, we're the go-to experts when it comes to all things video games. At Newzoo, we're all about providing the insights which will help our clients be one step ahead in the gaming business. As touched upon already, today we will be focusing on data from our Global Gamer Study. The Global Gamer Study is the most comprehensive study on the gaming landscape and gaming audience, covering 36 markets globally. So before we actually dive into the content for today's webinar, I'd like to share some top-level insights into the methodology for this study. So we collect data for this study via an online survey conducted annually, typically between February and March. The study itself covers a diverse range of topics, from demographics to media and lifestyle to deep gaming motivations, as well as other gaming-related behavior. We cover a representative sample of the online population, either age 10 to 65 or 10 to 50, depending on the market in question. It's also important to note for today's session that the data we'll be looking at is an aggregate of the 36 markets covered. In addition, I also wanted to touch upon the definitions for today's webinar. So of course, we're going to be talking a lot about generations. So it's important that we understand the definitions that have been used. So notably for Gen Alpha, the youngest generation, we include those aged 10 to 13 in our study. For baby boomers, on the other hand, we include individuals up to age 65. So now that we're all on the same page, let's get started. So, as many of you may already know, we recently released a report on how different generations engage with video games today. That report is available to download from our website, and I believe Jutta will also post a link in the chat. For those of you who have not had the opportunity to read it yet, I wish you happy reading. Of course, we only have very limited time today, so we'll focus on 3 key topics in this session. The first, gaming as a lifestyle. The second, gaming engagement across generations. And finally, gaming as an advertising vehicle. So the first section, gaming as a lifestyle. Gaming's impact goes well beyond the number of players as well as the revenue generated. Furthermore, it even goes beyond mere leisure or entertainment. Gaming has become a lifestyle, particularly among younger generations, and an integral part of both their daily lives and their identity. In this section, we will explore just how impactful gaming is on this younger cohort. So gaming is extremely popular across generations. Throughout this presentation, we will refer to game enthusiasts, which are consumers who engage with gaming through playing, viewing, owning, and/or social behavior in the past 6 months. So as we can see here, across the generations, gaming is indeed extremely popular. However, with each new generation, we see that gaming is in fact expanding its reach. Gaming holds a special place in the lives, in particular, of Gen Alpha and Gen Z. As we can see, 9 and 10 are game enthusiasts. As current game enthusiasts age, we expect to see even higher shares of game enthusiasts in the future. Here we are looking at the percentage of leisure time spent per week on a variety of different entertainment forms. Younger generations allocate more or as much time to gaming than any other form of entertainment, demonstrating just how important gaming has become to their daily lives. For Gen Alpha specifically, we see that 22% of their leisure time per week is spent engaging with gaming, making it the top entertainment mode for this generation. This is not only of interest, of course, to marketeers from the publisher and developer side, who are competing, of course, for consumers' attention and time, but also for brands aiming to understand the best channels to reach their audiences. When we look at playing, viewing, and other gaming engagement by generation, it is clear that playing is, in fact, the most common way of engaging with games across all generations. However, other forms of engagement, such as viewing gaming video content and other gaming engagement, are especially popular among younger generations. For example, we see here that 72% of Gen Alpha as well as Gen Z view gaming video content, compared to only 11% of baby boomers. So when we're talking about other forms of gaming engagement, they are quite diverse in nature. But examples include speaking about games to others, visiting websites and blogs, or listening to gaming-related podcasts, activities which are notably popular, once again, among these younger generations. Furthermore, gaming has even become part of younger generations' identities. They are more likely to identify as gamers or to be considered gamers by others, once again highlighting just how impactful games have become to them and that they are so much more to them than just a pastime. So, 3 things that we looked at in this first section. Each new generation dedicates more leisure time to gaming. Gaming involvement extends well beyond playing. It encompasses various dimensions. What was once a hobby is now evolving into a defining lifestyle or identity for many. So what does this mean? Well, for game developers and publishers, they may consider other forms of engagement to expand and strengthen their fandoms. Meanwhile, for consumer brands and services, games and gaming environments should be considered crucial elements of marketing strategies and the marketing mix. So, moving into section 2. As touched upon before, gaming engagement has become so much more than just playing. In this section, we will explore some interesting similarities as well as differences when it comes to gaming engagement across generations. It is important to note that this section, of course, only scratches the surface of what's included in the actual data for the Global Gamer Study, which also covers topics relating to engagement, such as preferred game modes, appealing features of games, appealing themes and settings, to name but a few. So let's start with the platforms different generations use for gaming. So as we can see in this graph, mobile really stands out as the most popular device across all generations, which is likely due to its accessibility. As we can see, 81% of Gen Alpha and 70% of baby boomers have played via mobile device in the past 6 months. Meanwhile, we see that Gen Alpha, Gen Z, and millennials are much more likely to engage with PC and console. Meanwhile, when it comes to baby boomers, they are less likely to engage with consoles, which is possibly related to the additional investment associated with consoles. Given this, it's unsurprising that younger generations are more likely to play on multiple platforms. In fact, over half of Gen Alpha and Gen Z have engaged with at least 2 or more platforms in the past 6 months. With younger generations becoming more accustomed to accessing games on various devices, their expectation for cross-platform access is likely high. This is also evident in cross-platform game offerings. I believe we've all seen at this stage more and more games transitioning to cross-platform compatibility, especially in the last few years. So when it comes to which genres different generations are actually playing, we also see some interesting differences. On average, younger generations play a broader range of genres than older generations do. This is likely related to more time constraints within older generations' lives. Genre preferences also differ significantly from one generation to another. Older generations tend to play more casual genres such as puzzle and match games, while Gen Alpha, Gen Z, and Millennials all lean towards adventure titles more frequently. The popularity of multiplayer genres such as battle royale and racing among younger generations highlights the importance of socializing in games. Now, of course, we've looked at which platforms different generations are playing on, as well as which genres they're playing. It's important to also explore their spending habits. When we refer to payers in this slide, we mean those who have spent money on a monthly basis in the past 6 months on either PC, console, or mobile, encompassing everything from purchasing the game itself to any in-game transactions. Meanwhile, when we refer to big spenders, we're referring to payers who have spent £25, euro, or dollars or more a month on games. Across the generations studied, Gen Alpha, Gen Z, and Millennial players are the most inclined to spend on video games, with 3 in 5 spending on at least one platform. Notably, Gen Z and Millennials stand out as the most significant players, with over a third of Gen Z and Millennial players being big spenders, likely related to a higher disposable income. But what are they actually spending on in-game? Well, across generations, as we can see, in-game currencies are the top in-game item purchased. Such currencies are the backbone of free-to-play and live service monetization. Over the past decade or so, the games market has increasingly moved towards the live services model and away from premium revenues. Mobile, gaming's biggest segment, is basically entirely free to play. Meanwhile, most of the top console and PC games by engagement and revenue, including games like Fortnite and Warzone 2.0, are also free to play. Striking the right balance between a fun, engaging gameplay loop and monetizing players via microtransactions will remain a key challenge for developers. When it comes to why generations spend on games, we find that unlocking extra or exclusive content motivates all generations to spend. Meanwhile, for a sale, special offer, or good price appears to increase in popularity with age, standing out in particular among millennials, Gen X, and baby boomers. Moreover, it's interesting to note that younger generations are more driven to spend on character customization, and Gen Alpha in particular to socialize with friends or family, which highlights the nuances that motivates generations or different age groups to spend. It's essential for gaming publishers to understand spending motivations to tailor their game strategies effectively to their target age groups. As previously touched upon, viewing gaming video content has become an important pillar of gaming engagement. When we look at overlap between playing and viewing, we see just how common these two activities really are. With approximately 7 in 10 Gen Alpha and Gen Z playing and viewing, this decreases notably among older generations. When it actually comes to why different generations are viewing gaming-related content, the reasons are pretty consistent across generations, with getting inspiration and seeing high-level gameplay standing out. This suggests that these types of content should be of key importance to publishers and developers wishing to engage further with their audiences outside of gameplay. So 3 key things that we looked at in this section. Preferences for platforms and genres significantly differ across generations. Different generations have varying motivations for spending, and playing and viewing are interconnected for younger generations. So, what does this mean? Understanding the unique preferences and expectations of various generations is pivotal for game publishers and developers to engage their game's target audience effectively. Meanwhile, for consumer brands and services, understanding and capitalizing on diverse methods to connect, while also considering the motivational aspect of their respective audiences, is crucial. So finally, we come to our third section, gaming as an advertising vehicle. Gaming is exceptionally popular among all ages, especially younger generations, and for this reason, it serves as a valuable advertising vehicle. It offers opportunities for both game publishers and developers, as well as consumer brands and services. For publishers and developers specifically, it provides an opportunity to solidify new revenue streams. Meanwhile, for brands, gaming has become an indispensable aspect of the marketing mix, considering individuals spend as much time on gaming as they do on other forms of entertainment. Brand engagement within the gaming sphere can significantly impact both brand discovery and purchase behavior. Half of players and viewers report discovering new brands whilst gaming, and nearly half are more likely to buy from a brand featured in their favorite game. This trend is notably higher among both Gen Alpha and Gen Z, which highlights the valuable opportunity gaming provides for brands particularly looking to engage with younger cohorts. In fact, it appears that gamers are more receptive to brands in general. Among the brands covered in the study, game enthusiasts are, on average, 1.6 times more likely to have a more positive brand attitude, than non-game enthusiasts. Focusing specifically on the beverage category, these brands, in an aggregate sense, are perceived notably more positively among game enthusiasts compared to non-game enthusiasts across each generation. To look at one case study specifically, Pernod Ricard's collaboration with Borderlands featuring Valentine's is probably one of the most successful in recent years. Mad Moxie, a well-known character who runs the game's bar, was appointed the Chief Galactic Expansion Officer to launch the whiskey brand within the Borderlands universe. This ongoing collaboration with Mad Moxie brings together players and Valentines, generating tailored messaging, content, and in-game elements tied to the partnership. The collaboration included the release of a special edition co-branded bottle, which actually managed to sell out within 4 hours of its release. So what made Borderlands an appealing game for Valentines to collaborate with? Borderlands is a very popular game within the gaming community. In 2023, there were forecasted to be 2.36 billion players globally, and 45.3 million have ever played the Borderlands series. When we look at the player base for Borderlands, we see that it skews somewhat younger. Traditionally, younger age groups are not a stereotypical demographic for whiskey, but as we have touched on a lot today, gaming appeals a lot to younger generations. This demonstrates why a collaboration may be a beneficial avenue to pursue for Pernod Ricard. Of course, it is very important to add here that the partnership itself is limited to those of legal drinking age. So what's the impact of the partnership? Here we're only looking at one metric, the impact on brand attitude, but of course there are many others such as purchase intent, consumption frequency, etc. Zooming in on brand attitude towards Valentine's among Borderlands and non-Borderlands players, considering only those aged 18 and over, Borderlands players exhibit significantly higher attitudes toward Valentine's compared to non-Borderlands players. This inclination is likely attributable to some extent to this positively received partnership. Notably, this trend is consistent across all generations, with the most prominent effect observed among millennials and Gen X. Of course, this was just one example, At Newzoo, we often assist clients in identifying suitable brand and game collaborations through our consulting and custom research services. So, 3 things that we looked at in our third section. Game brand partnerships wield influential power in brand discovery and purchasing. Game enthusiasts tend to be more receptive to brands and have more positive brand attitudes. Effective brand collaborations are powerful in enhancing brand perceptions. So, what does this mean? For game developers and publishers, brand collaborations and partnerships present opportunities for revenue diversification and expansion. For consumer brands and services, on the other hand, effective brand partnerships offer a successful avenue to enhance brand engagement, perception, and purchase intent. So we've covered a lot of content in the last little while in this session, but of course it only scratches the surface of what our global gamer study actually covered. In the session today, we looked into 3 key areas: gaming as a lifestyle, gaming engagement across generations, and gaming as an advertising vehicle, and highlighted the differences as well as the similarities in how different generations engage with gaming today. I really hope that you've enjoyed our webinar. So that concludes the presentation for today's session, but thank you so much for your time. For the remaining few minutes, I will hand over the mic to my colleague Jutta, who will be hosting the Q&A session. Over to you, Jutta.
Thank you, Ola, and hello everyone, also from my side. I'm Jutta, the head of Consumer Insights here at Newzoo. And we've already received quite a few questions via the chat, which I try to answer as best as possible. But we will share more information because sometimes I kept it a bit short, but we will add more information in the FAQ doc that we will send next week if we don't answer your question now in the Q&A section. So we have a few more minutes. A very good question. Do you have any insights on the forms of other engagement and their relative popularity to each other? For example, are podcasts more popular than blogs? I'm happy to take that, Ola, to give you a mini break.
Yeah, sure. If you're happy to take it, go ahead.
Yes, so other engagement in the surveys in aggregate. So we ask several things. We only showed 3 examples, but it can be from socializing in game worlds to like discussing video games, but also podcasts and blogs. But it could also include things like creating content yourself. We don't distinguish podcasts and blogs, I believe, because I think it's in one item, but we will share the full list next week in the FAQ document that will be shared alongside the deck and the recording. Then another question that we received, also some people shared some via email prior. They find it very valuable that we cover respondents from age 10 plus. How do you go about the recruiting of minors?
Yeah, I can take this one if you like. So of course, that younger age group is really important. As we've seen today, Gen Alpha is highly engaged with gaming. When it comes to actual recruitment, we typically recruit through their parents or legal guardians. So they're also encouraged to assist the child when they're completing the survey itself to ensure that all questions are understood.
Nice, yeah. Then another really good question, one of your findings is that more people identify as gamers. In other words, they make this part of their identity, whether we have investigated what that actually means. As this is an online survey, sorry, Ola, I take this one again. As this is an online survey, we don't go into as much detail. Obviously, we ask a lot of detailed questions on their gaming behaviors and also motivations, gaming motivations, which we haven't touched upon too much in today's webinar. So we cover a lot what this could mean, but we don't specifically ask, given it's an online survey, what stands behind when people say they identify as a gamer. But I think that is an excellent topic for a more qualitative exploration, which we also do quite a bit on an ad hoc basis with our clients. It's also quite interesting what we found recently is that males are much more likely to agree that they identify as a gamer, or others see them as a gamer, whereas I think females are not as likely yet to define themselves as a gamer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right, and then maybe one last question to finish off for today. Given that this survey has been running for quite a few years, have you seen any interesting trends over the last few years when it comes to how different generations engage with games?
Yeah, well, the survey has been going on for quite a long time at this stage, so over 10 years. So each year we do, of course, try our best to kind of cover the most interesting topics, given the rapidly evolving gaming industry. Then, of course, when people subscribe, they're able to access kind of the insights that are most interesting to them. Of course, there have been a number of interesting trends over the years which have kind of stuck out. Of course, we only have a few moments, so won't go into too many. However, the number of players across the generations, of course, is definitely an interesting one. Younger individuals joining into the player base, and of course, the increasing share of female players. There's also been, of course, an increase in recent years in multi-platform playing, and as we kind of touched upon a bit in today's session, where AAA games are adopting more cross-platform strategies to appeal to broader audiences, given this big appeal, which is, of course, being helped with a variety of technological advances such as cloud gaming. Of course, that was very top level. Jutta, if there's anything you want to add there, feel free.
No, I think that's great. And yeah, just maybe a last question that just came in, that the interest to see how these measures vary across the country's region. Also, really a good question we can touch upon in the FAQ deck next week. But given we cover 36 markets and quite a few regions in the world, there are definitely some differences when it comes to gaming engagement. Especially when you look at the other engagement, this is much higher in certain regions than in others globally. Okay, great. Then I guess that brings us to the end of our webinar today. I hope everyone enjoyed it, and don't hesitate to reach out with more questions. Or if you would like to receive more details or a product demo of the actual data, also please reach out to us. And enjoy your day or your evening, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks very much, everyone. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
All the best.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.